This morning we're looking at the Gospel of John, the story of Thomas, known as Thomas the Doubter, Doubting Thomas. Um, when we're looking at characters in the Bible, sometimes what the Christian scriptures give us is not anywhere near as developed as the Hebrew scriptures. For example, we can read the Hebrew scriptures and we can see that David is not a nice person a lot of the time. We can see that Rachel knows how to really manipulate the male members of her family. We can see that Sarah has a temper. We can see that Isaac is not the brightest guy in the pack. But when we get to Christian scriptures, we don't have the depth of character study with any of them. We have snapshots of Mary and Judas and Martha and all of these folks. So if we start with the bias, the assumption that the characters that we encounter, the people we encounter in the Christian scriptures, that while they are historical people, they're not the center of the story. They're just windows on the story that is primarily Jesus and how the Gospels tell these stories. And the same characters keep coming up again and again to tell these stories. And when we look at Thomas, we kind of isolate him in this one encounter with Jesus where he says that if I don't touch Jesus' hands and feet, then I don't possibly believe. Now, Thomas is not one of the standard three that we talk about all the time. That would be Peter, James, and John. But he does have other chances to shine in the Christian scriptures. Just a few weeks ago, we were looking at the story of Lazarus, and Thomas was the one who said, you know what, might as well go to Jerusalem. We're going to get killed anyway, so get on with the deal. So Thomas has a bit of pragmatism to him, but he comes after his friends who've said they've seen Jesus, and he doesn't believe. Now, we've got to be fair to Thomas here a little bit, because Thomas didn't have the experience that the others had. Remember, Jesus has appeared to Mary. She doesn't have to believe. She's had the encounter. Jesus has appeared to the other disciples. They don't have to believe. They've already had this encounter. So why is Thomas the standout of doubt and disbelief? Maybe that's not the way to go through it, although that's certainly how I was taught and probably how many people were taught to look at Thomas. Maybe the way to look at Thomas is he's the one asking the question that everybody else wants to ask. How am I possibly to believe if I don't have a personal experience? And that question has dominated the development of Christianity for all of our 2,000 years. How do we know? How do we possibly believe in a Jesus that is no longer walking amongst us? And many traditions, many theologians, many thinkers over the millennia have tried to get that problem solved, tried to answer that question. We keep coming back to faith. And just as the gospel lesson tells us today, Jesus said, you got to have faith. A lot of people are not going to have an opportunity to touch my hands. They're not going to see me walking around. They're not going to see how damaged my body is. They're just going to have to depend on faith. That's often interpreted as a censor of Thomas, that he should know better. But I think we need to see that as the gospel writer telling us there's something more here. See, the Christian religion as we know it did not start with Jesus and a bunch of ragtag folk walking around the Palestinian hillside for the better part of 3 years. Religion that is Christianity began Easter Sunday. It began with these appearances of Jesus among his faithful saying, come on, get on with the job now. I'm giving you the responsibility. Gospel of John even goes on to say there are many more experiences. I just haven't included them here. So the experiences of Jesus being with them was not the place where they developed faith. It's the place where they developed purpose. We're not looking at Thomas as someone who can't believe in Jesus. He's followed him for 3 years. Of course he believes in him. We're looking through Thomas's eyes to, now I've got to take this story to someone else. And there's way too many churches out there that are waiting for that Thomas experience and not realizing Thomas is the conduit, not the end of what we're about. Faith is hard. Faith is one of those things where you only really need it when you're desperate. I've had people tell me that they have no faith, and yet they'll cross the street assuming the cars will stop. They have faith in that. So it's not faith that they don't have. It's that they don't want to be under the umbrella of Christianity. And you know what? If that's your place, you fill your boots. That's okay. There's a lot of other ways to encounter other people. What Christianity offers, however, is a responsibility to be responsible for others, to be Thomas to others. So bring it home. How do we be Thomas in a modern world? Perhaps the scars that we're meant to touch are not Jesus as he physically was 2,000 years ago. Maybe if we really believe that Jesus is in all people, that we are all the hands and feet of Jesus in this world, maybe the scars that we're supposed to touch are those of women who have been abused, who are desperate for help. You can be Thomas for them. Touch them. And now believe what they have to say and make it better. Or the queer kid who comes and is totally despondent. They might not exhibit scars physically, they might, but you can touch their hands and feel their pain. And you can be Thomas from them. Have your Thomas moment and believe and help them and support them. Be their place of faith. Or the old guy that we all know who talks way too much and is not nearly as important as he'd like to be. And everybody kind of says behind his back, oh, don't start a conversation with him. You'll never get leave of him. Maybe our job is to be Thomas with this man. Touch his scars. Touch his wounds. Spend that time. Is it really going to cost you too much to give this broken soul 20 minutes? I don't think so. See, the thing with faith is it grows as it's encountered. I told a congregation many, many moons ago, and I'll say it again. Faith is caught. It is not taught. If you're one of those unique individuals who has had a Thomas moment, who has had a personal experience of Jesus in your lives, wonderful. You are in a small minority. Share that story. Talk about it. If you're a person who has never had that experience, don't go looking for it. So few people are going to have that experience. And quite frankly, those who do are usually in situations of such despair and danger that they need something bigger to hold on to. If you're comfortable in your life, you're probably never going to have a Thomas experience. So don't look for it. But you can create a Thomas experience for others. Be that person who says, I will touch your pain, I will see your pain, and I will believe in you. Because once we believe in each other, we work to make things better for each other. And it doesn't matter if it's someone we know personally or someone we'll never meet. We can make life better for each other. That's essentially the Christian message. It's not about sitting in church and singing fancy hymns and judging other people for what they wear and what they choose to do with their lives and their bodies. That's not Christianity. Christianity is being Thomas, about saying, I believe in you because I see you. So go out and see people. Even if you're only seeing them in a distance and the only way you can affect them is through giving money or offering prayer, that's still you doing something to make their world better. You don't have to stay at Thomas was a doubter, oh no, let's not be like him. Instead, find yourself to say, Thomas had questions, so do I. But faith doesn't resist questions. Never did. Faith is a blessing. And the more you have it, the more you can share it. And if someone comes to you and says, I don't believe in this God you talk about, share with them what you have experienced. Because chances are the God they don't believe in is someone you don't believe in either. It's a media or Hollywood construct, something that has nothing to do with a man 2,000 years ago who walked around the countryside healing people and telling everybody that they matter, something unheard of at the time. Be Thomas. It's okay to doubt. Faith is not dependent on how strong your beliefs are. Faith is just dependent on that you try to believe. So go do that.